Andy Burnham's opponents are scraping the bottom of the barrel if they're stooping to this as a way of shaming him. The new Prime Minister, still less than 1 month into his ministry, ordered a review of the scheme to release several thousand prisoners early, including some convicted of very serious crimes, that was approved by Keir Starmer in January. He later announced that he would remove some categories of prisoner from early release, including rapists and child sex offenders. The Conservatives then attacked him on the basis that some offenders who committed grooming-related crimes will still be released, as well as some killers, including those of PC Andrew Harper. So, Burnham has intervened again in order to find out how many such prisoners are still likely to be released early. It is not clear what he's planning to do about them. The attitude shown by the Tories and the media is that Burnham must be a poor PM because he has not solved this crisis within his first 3 weeks. But that is, hypocritically, ignoring the fact that it has been brewing for at least 3 decades, and the Tories made it much worse during their 14 years of austerity-driven cuts. And it ignores the fact that this is a failure of the entire justice system, not just of prison capacity. Politicians cannot continually cut or reorganise one part of it and expect the consequences to remain confined to that part. Police investigate crimes, prosecutors bring cases, courts process them, judges sentence offenders, prisons accommodate them, and probation supervises them afterwards. Reduce capacity or allow backlogs to develop at any one stage and pressure will appear somewhere else. And that is exactly what has happened over the last 16 years. The Tories created a criminal justice system in which the number of people being sentenced, the condition of the prison estate, the availability of prison places, and the capacity of the courts don't properly fit together. And Starmer's Labour did nothing about it. The prison estate was already under pressure when the Conservatives entered government in 2010, and they did do something about it. They created 13,000 new prison places and closed 12,500. In January 2011, then Justice Secretary Kenneth Clarke announced the closure of 849 places, arguing that there was sufficient capacity for the cut. This has proved tragically inaccurate. By 2019, the National Audit Office found that 60% of adult prisons were crowded, and the government was substantially behind its target for creating new prison places. The NAO subsequently put the net increase between May 2010 and September 2024 at just 1,005 places, while noting that 4,151 cells had been indefinitely closed because of dilapidation. So the actual number of cells in September 2024, by which time Labour had swept back into government under Keir Starmer, was apparently 3,146 fewer than in May 2010. Those prisons that are in service are falling apart. The cost of maintenance for the backlog of problems with them doubled within 4 years, rising from 900 million in 2020 to 1.8 billion in 2024. And what about the court backlog? That must feed into the issue of prison places too. The court system was subjected to major closure programs after 2010, with at least 240 closed by 2022. Some figures say the true number is anything up to 600. So what we're seeing is a cascading crisis. There's currently a backlog of 80,000 Crown Court cases in England and Wales alone. If the courts process those more quickly, then the prison system will have to contend with thousands more prisoners, and it doesn't have any space for them within its crumbling walls. Burnham's responses so far have fitted a pattern we've been noticing for some time. The so-called sticking plaster politics bemoaned by Starmer, but later practiced by him. His decisions so far are all dealing with the symptoms. Prisons are overcrowded, so release prisoners early. People are angry, so exclude the most politically toxic. Particular offenders become the focus of public outrage, so announce that those offenders won't be released. The government gets attacked anyway, so conduct another review. That doesn't solve the underlying problem, but it does buy time. If Burnham has any political nous at all, he'll say his current measures are a temporary stopgap solution. On the subject of grooming gang members and murderers, he could have their status reviewed on a case-by-case basis. That would relieve the immediate pressure. The logical next step would be to launch a prison building program with new facilities in all regions of the UK. This in itself would create a huge boost to the economy, as construction has the highest economic multiplier of any activity. The sensible move would be to build in excess capacity, more room than is currently expected to be needed, so shocks can be accommodated. These prisons would need to be staffed, so there would be an employment boost. It would be wise not to include private firms in this, due to the recent record of poor management, in order to maximise profit. As these prisons start to come online, Burnham could start bringing courts back online as well. Perhaps not in new buildings, although some of those that have been closed could be reopened with a little restoration work, perhaps. But in public buildings that can be turned to the purpose. These could process the case backlog and put convicts in the new prisons. And the new courts would also need to be staffed, meaning jobs for magistrates, lawyers and other officers of the court. Yes, this would cost money. But if the Tories, or others, complain, all Burnham has to say is that it is the only way to solve the crisis that the Tories created by recklessly destroying the system's capacity to handle new court cases and convicts over the previous decades. Doing that would make the prisoner release row less a story about whether Burnham is soft on crime and more about whether he can actually solve problems rather than merely managing crises.